and just like others, I got my own story to tell. I got my own life to live. That doesn't still not make me a descendant of the Tulsa Race Massacre. So apparently, this was one of the biggest events 100 years ago. My take is a little bit different because us as being of color, being descendants of African slaves, we forget that 100 years ago, there were Caucasians, there were also Indians. Indians owned African American slaves. So about that time, the Tulsa Race Massacre happened. It was not about the thriving Black Wall Street. I think it was about greed. And the reason I say is because I've sat, I've listened, I've read. But I'm also someone that has always been adamant on banking rules. You see, the problem that we have, or I have witnessed and observed, African Americans or people who have been hearing stories or reliving stories from our elders. Our elders tell us something because they're crying. They want to be heard, whether they are still living or they have transcended. And when I say, we have to look at it from more than what we feel we are owed. Because without work, you are owed nothing. Money, I have posted time and time and time and time again. Moneyfactory.gov is how you will get your reparations. You take words out of context, you start assuming that you're owed. You may be grieving from a story that you've heard, but you are living someone else's grief. You don't have to be stuck. You don't have to be grieving. You have to make a difference. You have to fight. If you are eligible to make money, you can get a career making money. Believing that we need a revamp or a turnaround of money that was 100 years ago, please think. Please think. And you do not have to agree with me. But if you think about everything that you are putting into the atmosphere and how much sense that does not make coming from someone that is a descendant, I still follow all of my grandmother's banking practices to a T. I'm heavy on that. My ledger has never, ever, ever been wrong. I've been having a bank account since I was 5 years old. We have a problem when our elders that are 103, 100, 107 state that they are owed reparations because they lived through the massacre, okay? I understand that you may be having a traumatic flashback. If you're having a traumatic flashback, you need to seek mental health counseling. You need to talk to a therapist. You need psychological help. That does not mean a person has to give you a paper dollar, a red copper coin. That means you need help medically. If and in fact you had a banking ledger at that bank on Black Wall Street during the Tulsa Race Massacre, you can prove how much was in that account, or your grandfather or your grandmother or you or whoever opened the account for you by submitting a bank deposit slip. No banks lose those things. The same money, if it still is in existence, the same type of money that was in circulation 100 years ago, they have those notes, and they can remake those same notes. However, we have evolved. This is where the problem lies. You have to understand, if you had $300 in the bank 100 years ago and you have a proof of a deposit slip, we know as people who bank, personal banking, not business, that you are supposed to gain interest, and interest is done on a percentage basis. So you do not get interest for 100 years times how many times the interest rate has changed. You get your interest for 100 years times when the bank was blown down. So, are you going to be a person who is attempting to commit a crime? Because it's called robbery. And even if you don't know that you were committing a crime, I'm here to tell you that's what it sounds like to a person who is heavy with the bank. It may not look like it, but the bank know me well. Any bank, damn near every bank in the world. So it's hard for me and people who are dealing with the Federal Reserve System, the local state government banks. I deal with everything except the credit unions. And I even had a credit union bank account at one point. A bank, they move them. When they start to grow, and they do not no longer need them, what they do is they destroy them. And that is true. They blow them down. So I can't account for the fact that the bank had people in it. I'm still trying to process that part. Because what I read was there was an altercation with Caucasians. Even the founder of of Tulsa was in the midst of the altercation with African Americans. But the problem that I'm having is, even after this this case was dismissed, this case claims to be done. We have a statute of limitation here in America, and you don't get to try cases over and over and over after a period of time, because then you're harassing people, and then you feel like you don't you feel like you're not doing anything wrong, and that's the part that we need to understand. So when you repeatedly appeal and you keep reiterating the same thing over and over and over, and you're missing the point, That means you need to be educated on banking, period. You need to be educated on trauma and healthcare. It's very bothersome to me to have seen President Biden come to speak to Tulsa and his message did not get comprehended. And I was appalled. I had to get up and leave my seat because the people of Tulsa were clapping when he was telling you, plain as day, you can repeat history by egging people, by being bothersome with no proof of what you are asking for. You are asking for something to be rebuilt that you may not have had in that bank when the massacre happened 100 years ago. What I'm saying is not that you may not need grants and loans and things to be entrepreneurs and educate yourself and be independent. But we as people need to understand that education has never been free. President Biden, he offered to give you a free education of college for 2 years at a community college. But you have to be willing to work your ass off. You got to have a hunger for your education. Because public and private schools do not learn the same thing. They never have. They never will. So when you understand this, you will understand the fact that the things that you ask for and you have no work ethic or no proof of the things that you are holding your hand out for, you look like you're trying to start a riot. And I want you to stop before it gets out of hand, because I want to live. I am blessed. My life may not be perfect, but I am still alive. And it's not just because African Americans. My bloodline is Syrian, Indian, Choctaw Indian, and African American. I try to connect with each part of my ancestry, but I will not be embarrassed trying to reach out and talk to people who automatically think they are owed something just because someone else have it. I work my ass off so I know what I deserve. And even if someone else thinks I don't deserve it, I volunteer my services just to prove that maybe one day I will be worthy in their eyes of the things that I have my hand out for, that I'm praying for. So my message to you is, instead of holding your hand out, assuming that you are owed because maybe 3 individuals brought a case of recollection. If you feel you're owed this so bad, based off of 3 recollections, please do something about it, which means contact Money Factory and ask for a career, because that's the only way you will get a reparation. May God bless you.